Hi everyone, it's Barbara Hayward here from Stories from the Soul, and I'm your host tonight. A little bit stilted there, and I do apologize for that. Tonight, I would like to share a couple of stories with you that happened a, a long time ago. It was a really long time ago. However, they've had a really big impact on me. And I often tell the stories because they're really quite profound. And they are stories actually that I know a lot of other people have had very similar stories in their life as well. And the first one I want to talk about is when my son, who is now 50, he was around 7 or 8 months old. And my husband then was Gary, and his brother had just moved in with us to live. He was a little homeless and needed some really good accommodation. So, anyway, he joined our family, and Harley was only just a wee thing. We had gone out, Gary and I had gone out that night, and we went actually, a lot of you will understand this. We went to the drive in theatre and watched a movie. And we got home, and Neil had said to us that Harley had been like really coughing very badly through the night. And, we're going back 50 years now, so there was no mobile phones, anything like that. And so I did hear him coughing, and it was more like croup. And it's that really quite desperate cough trying to catch the breath. And so we set up a portable cot at the end of the bed. And I knew that if he was in distress through the night, I'd wake up very quickly, very easily, get out of bed and go and serve his needs. And the thing that I was going to do, if he got into trouble, is put Vicks Vapor Rub in a bowl of boiling water and let the steam come up and put this baby under the steam so it would clear out his lungs and his breathing passage. That's what we used to do back then. So anyway, I did hear him cough through the night, and he was getting worse. And I was opening my eyes, and as I was opening my eyes, I went to sit up, and I swung my legs around to put them on the floor to get out of bed. And as I did this, I looked down at the end of the bed, and there, the other side of Harley's cot, portable cot, was a boy and a girl, and the girl was taller than the boy, and he they were both looking over Harley, and they were in the white garb, and they had the blonde hair, and it was like around them they had this aura or a light, if you like, and it was just very surreal. And I went to get up, and I said to them, "Who are you? Who are you?" And it took me a second, and they said, "We're here to take care of your son." And I said to them, "What do you mean? Here to take care of my son? That's my job. I need to get up." And they said, "No, we've been sent here to take care of your son and to allow him to get better." And I said, "But I have to get up. I'm his mum." And they said, "No, please go back to bed. Please go back, have a sleep. This is our job. We will take care of your son, and in the morning he will be fine. And we've been sent by God to take care of him." And I was in disbelief, and I said, "Well, I can't do that. Like, I'm his mum. I have to get up. It's what I do." And they said, "Please just go back to bed. He will be fine. We're here to take care of him." And I don't know what got over me, but I went back to bed, and I went to sleep. It was the most surreal experience. And can I tell you that next morning he was fine. It was like nothing had happened. And he never ever had another bout of croup. It was like God, the universe, the angels sent these two children, which they said that they were his guardian angels, to take care of him for the night. And it was just so impactful that, 50 years later, nearly, and it is nearly 50 years later because his birthday's in January, that I can see it as clear as day. And I know that a lot of you out there really understand this story because you've got your own similar stories, or you've got family or friends that have had theirs story that have told you as well. And it was it was one of those nights that I have absolutely no idea why I just went back to bed. And I went back to sleep. It was a very peaceful sleep because he never coughed. And I had obviously the 1 year still out for him. And so I just wanted to share that story with you. And before I get on to my next story that leads into a series of stories, if you've got your own story and you would like to share your story, I would love to read them. I would love to hear them from you. And in the description, I will put the email address. It's Angel Stories with the number 4, Angel Stories for All, ALL, 25. So that's Angel Stories for All at 25 at gmail.com. I would love to hear your stories. Now, this next story happened around, could even be 25 years later. By this stage, I was in New Zealand living. I got a new husband in between that time, and he's a New Zealander, and I'm living in New Zealand. And it was in a period of time where my work took off, and it was just incomprehensible just how much work I did. I worked 7 days a week. I traveled the country on my own. Dennis had a full-time job he had to do, and I did readings and I did workshops. I did radio stations plus my own radio station that I had at this time. And it was just chaotic. And I used to quite often finish work around 6:30, and I'll travel for a few hours to the next location. But at this stage, it was a Sunday morning, and I was in New Plymouth working, and I needed to go to Rotorua. And it was a fairly unfamiliar road. I'd been up it many times, but not enough to truly understand the road. And it had been raining as well. Now, I had a church service that I was the guest speaker, and I needed to be there for about 1:45. The service started at 1 o'clock. And I was tired. I got up late. I was just rushing a little bit. As I said, it had been raining. It wasn't raining at the time. And I got to this particular part in the road where one side was like cliff. You know how the road is cut out of a hill, and you've got that on one side and you've got it on the other side, and it was a one lane this way, one lane that way, and it had like the stones on the side. And I was tired, I will tell you that. And I must have slipped. The car, the back wheels got onto some of the stone. And so instead of going that way, I started to go that way. And my concern at the time, because I've never skidded before, I've never really had this experience, not on a road like this. And my car started going backwards, and all I knew was I was going to hit that rock, that wall. there, and I was praying because I felt my time had come to an end, and I was really, really scared, really scared. And all of a sudden, I was crying. All of a sudden, it was like a big hand had come under the car. So I'm like this. The car turned around and it was put on the road. It was put on the road. I didn't do it because I didn't know how to get out of the skid. I had no idea. And it was lifted up, turned around, and put down. And I just sat there. I was crying. I was trying to gather my breath. I was trying to understand what had happened in those moments. And can I tell you, within 30 seconds, 45 seconds of me being put on the road, a semi-trailer came the other way. That's how close it was. But I didn't put my car back on the road. I didn't put my car back on the road. I didn't know how to do that. I was very blessed that there was no cars behind me. And I sat until I got my breath, and I started driving again very cautiously and very carefully. It was one of the most scariest times I've had on the road. But then I had to work through how did my car move like that? How did it was lifted up. How was it lifted up, turned around, and put down again? Have you had a story like this? Mine's not unique. I've heard a lot of stories. In fact, I was talking to some friends not long ago about this particular story, and they had their own stories. And I said, I wonder if God, the angels, universe, whatever you like to call it, has a band of angels specifically for the highways, specifically for the roads, because I've heard of so many stories where their life has been saved, like mine was. If I'd hit that rock, I would have gone this way, and the semi-trailer would have come straight through me. I would have been gone. I really would. And I've heard of so many stories very similar. And it's like the angels are there along the highways waiting for us humans to get into a little bit of trouble and get us out of trouble. And I remember it like it was just yesterday. And these profound stories that we experience, and I've told you a few, and I've got guest speakers telling you their stories. It is so profound that it stays with you forever. And I can remember going back even further. I think Harley and Harley would have been about 5, and his younger brother was 2.5. There was a couple of times that I didn't feel the car lift, but I did feel the car when I've skidded or I've overtaken the corner through tiredness, that my car has been righted and put on the road again, not to stop, but to get out of those, the stones on the side of the road, that sort of experience. Have you got your stories? I would love to read your stories, and feel free to send them in to me. Stories, angel stories for all 25 at gmail.com. And 25 is because that's the year that I set up the email address. So I hope you've enjoyed those two major stories, and I'll give you other types of experiences that I've had. But both of them were so significant. And one of them allowed me to be still walking the earth plane. And the other just showed me that the beings on the other side, they're here with love. They're here to serve us. They're here to take care of us. They're here to keep us safe when we're meant to be safe. If we're not meant to be safe, they stay around us and minimize the issue, allow us to go through the experience. But children this age, babies, that's a different question, and they're taken care of in a far different way, with a different purpose and reasoning. And to be honest, I don't understand all those reasonings. I don't fully understand why babies don't get to grow up. I don't fully understand that. I'm still learning about it. I hope you've enjoyed those stories. I've enjoyed sharing them with you. And don't forget, contact me if you have your own stories. I'd love to read them. This is a safe place. You know that I'm not going to laugh. If I had $1 for every time over the last 40 years, somebody said, "Hey, Barb, can I tell you something? I've never told anybody this before. Can I tell you about this experience? I've never shared it with anybody before." This is a really safe space. I'm sharing my stories, not just for because they're interesting, and they are interesting, but to also allow you to feel safe in your experiences, in your stories, in your world. And so thank you for joining me. It's only a very short video today, and sometimes short is good. And until next time, and next time I'll be talking about a story for the law of attraction, an absolute deliberate manifestation that I did, and you'll be just so intrigued with it, because in this story I'll be able to tell you how very specific the universe can create or manifest our dreams, goals, aspirations, even down to the minutest thing. And I think the next story of how I manifested a 3-bedroom apartment overlooking dolphins and in Perth, in Western Australia. And so until then, ka kite noa.